Imagine taking an entire data center's worth of artificial intelligence, crushing it down, and just sliding it right into your pocket. Welcome to this explainer. Today we're unpacking exactly how a massive frontier-class 27 billion parameter AI model was just successfully compressed to run entirely on a smartphone. We are talking about taking a model that normally demands a massive heavy-duty server rack and shrinking it so it runs with no subscription, absolutely no internet connection, and zero data ever leaving your device. I mean, this is a total game changer for how we're going to interact with technology every single day.
Here's our game plan for this explainer. First, AI's true DeepSeek moment. Second, the real numbers. Third, the business case. Fourth, how to try it. And finally, number 5, the honest limits.
All right, let's jump right into Part 1, AI's true DeepSeek moment. So we have to start right at the launch, back on July 14th, 2026. A Caltech-founded startup called PrismML delivered something the entire industry thought was still years away. Backed by costly ventures, they dropped Bonsai 27B. Now, this is a highly compressed model built directly on top of Alibaba's already massive Qwen 3.6 27B framework. They put out 2 versions, but the absolute star of the show is their specialized 1-bit version. To wrap your head around what a 1-bit model actually implies, think of it like taking a giant, highly detailed 4K photograph and squishing it down to a tiny pixelated icon, but somehow, miraculously, it keeps all the recognizable details and colors perfectly intact. It's this extreme form of compression engineered specifically to run natively on mobile hardware without literally melting your phone.
To really appreciate how crazy this is, we've got to look at the storage footprint. Storing a standard, uncompressed 16-bit model, that takes roughly 54 gigabytes of space. To put that into perspective, 54 gigs is almost half the entire storage of a base model smartphone, just for one single app. Even standard compression demands around 18 gigabytes, which is honestly still way too bulky. But PrismML's 1-bit version shrinks that massive original file down 14 times over. It lands at just 3.9 gigabytes. That effortlessly fits alongside your photos, your texts, and your apps in an iPhone 17 Pro, utilizing its 12 gigabytes of RAM absolutely perfectly.
The sheer scale of this compression breakthrough has people completely rethinking the landscape. Developer Tim Karambot, he's the creator of the popular local AI client Anything LLM, proclaimed it AI's true DeepSeek moment. For a quick refresher, the original DeepSeek moment back in early 2025 was when open-source AI proved it could match multi-billion-dollar proprietary models for just pennies. It sent absolute shockwaves through the industry. Karambot notes that this new breakthrough is probably more significant than massive models like Fable, Mythos, or even GPT 5.6 combined. Why? Well, because bringing frontier-grade models to a fraction of the expected local cost completely rewrites the rules for everyday users and enterprise developers.
Okay, moving on to Section 2, the real numbers.
So the million-dollar question is, how much of the model's actual intelligence survives this massive 14 times squeeze? Because let's be real, fitting on a phone doesn't mean much if the AI isn't actually smart anymore. When you squeeze a model this hard, you'd logically expect it to forget almost everything it knows. But check out the quality retention across 15 standard benchmarks testing knowledge, reasoning, and programming. The original massive model scores an 85.0. The 5.9 gigabyte ternary version, it keeps 95% of that performance, scoring an 80.5. And that tiny 3.9 gigabyte 1-bit version we just talked about, it impressively retains 90% at 76.1. Retaining 90% of a 27 billion parameter model's intelligence in under 4 gigabytes? Actually, scratch that. It's not just impressive, it is an absolute masterclass in software engineering.
And it is not just smart, it is ridiculously fast. On an Apple M5 Max chip, the 1-bit version hits 87 tokens per second. Now, what does that actually feel like in practice? Well, at 87 tokens per second, the model is spitting out roughly 65 words every single second. That is significantly faster than you can even read. It means generating a full-page email or a detailed summary takes less than the blink of an eye. You get a genuinely fast, real-time, conversational speed on consumer hardware you can buy today. Say goodbye to those frustrating loading bars we usually associate with local AI.
And importantly, this isn't some stripped-down novelty toy. It keeps a massive 262,000 token context window. To put that in human terms, a context window that large means you can feed it hundreds of pages of PDFs all at once, and it will actually remember the whole shebang during your conversation.
It handles multimodal inputs like camera images, and it can even plan and execute multi-step agentic tasks. That means it doesn't just answer a single question. You can literally say, read this financial report, find the formatting errors, and draft an email to the accounting team highlighting the mistakes. It thinks in complex steps, behaving like a true assistant. Let's shift gears to Section 3, the business case. Going from a really cool tech demo to the real world, this fundamentally shifts how you might budget for enterprise AI. Right now, companies are bleeding thousands of dollars a month paying cloud providers every single time their employees draft client documents, summarize calls, or process data. But by bringing the brain entirely onto the local device, your per-token cloud billing and your marginal compute costs drop to exactly $0. You are no longer renting intelligence from some server farm in the desert. Once it's downloaded, your only ongoing cost is the electricity it takes to charge your phone or laptop. But honestly, arguably the even bigger business case here is absolute data privacy. Imagine you're a corporate lawyer on a Wi-Fi-less flight trying to summarize merger details. Or maybe you're a doctor in a hospital basement going through patient intake files. You can now process highly confidential documents without ever risking a data breach over a third-party server. Because this offline model runs with absolutely zero internet connection required, it's really the only safe AI category that can touch sensitive data in environments where you legally cannot send information up to the cloud.
And trust me, the enterprise market is taking note. CNBC recently reported that Apple itself is in talks with PrismML to evaluate this exact compression technology for future iPhone features. Apple cares deeply about running powerful AI locally, it aligns perfectly with their privacy mandates, and frankly, it saves them massive amounts of battery and server costs. When a major platform holder like Apple starts knocking on your door to look at your specific compression tech, it is a giant flashing signal that the entire tech sector needs to pay attention to where this is heading.
So let's jump to Section 4, how to try it.
If you want to tinker around and test this out for yourself today, it is genuinely free for commercial use under the Open Apache 2.0 license. You can go grab these files on the AI repository Hugging Face right now. If you're on a Mac, you'll want to look for the MLX version. That is just Apple's native format optimized for their silicon. For Windows or Linux users, you're going to want to grab the GGUF version so you can use it with local apps like Alama. But a quick heads up for mobile users, you should honestly wait a few weeks. The model itself is ready to go, but right now, apps like LM Studio are failing to load it because their underlying app engines still need a software update to support this brand new, ultra-compressed quantization format. Finally, Section 5, the honest limits. Now for the part those hype-filled tech headlines always seem to skip, a pragmatic reality check of the current friction points. While keeping 90% performance is amazing, that retention isn't completely even across the board. Math and coding hold up really well, but complex agentic tasks, they degrade pretty heavily. Extreme compression can sometimes scramble the complex logic loops required for that multi-step reasoning we talked about earlier. Also keep in mind that these benchmarks are self-reported by PrismML, so yeah, they are essentially grading their own homework right now. There are also early software bugs. One Android tester actually reported getting nothing but exclamation points back in their replies, which is pretty funny, but obviously not useful. And finally, Apple being in talks does not guarantee this tech is going to ship in your next phone. It's a signal of interest, not a confirmed product timeline. Do not point this at a critical, client-facing task on day one.
But ultimately, what we have here is a frontier-class AI model running entirely on your phone for free. No, it is not going to replace ChatGPT or Claude if you're trying to write a massive codebase from scratch. But for the private, zero marginal cost, everyday slice of your workflow, this completely changes the game. It bridges the gap between massive server intelligence and localized, portable privacy in a way we frankly just didn't expect to see this soon.
I want to leave you with this final thought to explore. With these kinds of new, powerful capabilities now sitting directly in your pocket, would you actually trust a phone-only AI with your business's most sensitive data? Or is the safety net and raw horsepower of the cloud simply too hard to leave behind? Let me know your strategy in the comments. It's a massive shift in how we handle our digital lives, and I am super fascinated to hear how you plan to use this. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.